Good morning, everybody. It is Friday, October the 24th, 6:45 a.m. Central Time. I hope you all are ready to rock and roll and shake that ME's money tree once again today. Today is options expiration in the financials. The 10-year 127 even to 27.16 is where the options lined up yesterday. On the 30-year, it's 42 to 43. So expiration at 0.8 would be mathematically where the market would have us, and at 42.16 for the 30-year. Now these are shooting marks. The yesterday we came in 127, 128 was where the spread was on the note, and 142 to 144 on the 30-year. There is very little news today. New home sales, 460K. It doesn't usually move the markets. I think the direction of the E-mini will be probably the major overall determinant of which way the financials trade in the other markets. The new home sales usually doesn't have much impact on the ES, but Ebola will. There's another country that's had its first official case of Ebola, Mali. That's the sixth African nation to get it. They will probably do a better job of containing it than we do. There's a pretty, pretty disturbing news story that was out last night that our government, with the press, is killing or spiking any stories of potential Ebola victims showing up at the hospitals. And unfortunately our government and the press has gotten to the point where it's a very believable story. You would hope that it's not true, because there are people in the community that are affected. Now, if you have a health worker that goes into a community and he starts with the victim, he tries to go backwards and discover how many people this guy has come in contact with. Well, if you're one of those people and you don't choose to cooperate, or you're somebody that isn't in this particular path for whatever the reason, and you aren't on the health workers list, if you don't have that news that there is a potential Ebola a person in a particular community, you could take yourself out of that. And a lot of it goes with it. You could be quarantined for 21, upwards of 48 days. And that virus lives in male semen for 90 days. So this suppression of the news to keep the public from panicking or moving into hysteria, it's not good, because of somebody could miss the health workers search for people that have come in contact with this individual. So New York City, the head of the media industry, is where they've gotten their first case. This guy was bowling. He was riding the subways. His girlfriend has been quarantined. How many other people has he come in contact with? Naturally, the story out of being put out by the authorities in New York City is that nobody has to worry about, riding the subways, riding the bus, being in the bowling alley with this guy, flying on the airplane that went from Africa to Belgium, from Belgium to the United States. Not to worry, and I hope they're right. So Ebola news spikes is probably going to be what the E-mini will be most subject to, and if we do get an Ebola story, the news algorithms will latch on the word Ebola. then the address of where that potential Ebola case is, and the reaction is never higher. It's always lower. So we'll be subject to selling in the E-mini, which normally would take the financials higher. So we don't have a big news day. So where is our sell? I'd like to sell this 15 area up here. I wrote the first sell as 15 to 19, seeing resistance at 16 to 20. It may take an 11 to get in, so let's go ahead and move it down to 11 to 15 for sell 1, then 19 to 23 for sell 2. On the buy side, we're going to have support starting at 4 because of this value area, so we'll make 5 to 1, buy 1. Like to get it done closer to the buck. We're planning on a close at 27.08 today, or we'll get started that way. And then 29 to 25 for buy 2. It's amazing where all this central bank and government intervention, all with the idea of maintaining the status quo, has taken us these days. And there'll come a time, and it's certainly not today, that this whole thing unravels. And it will unravel the only way that it can. Governments will default on their debt. Individuals will go into bankruptcy and default on their debt. Those holding the paper will end up with a lot of assets. They can weather the storm and keep their doors open. Insurance companies and banks will end up owning more assets in the United States, ready for the next business expansion. And that contraction can last anywhere from 7 to 25 years. So it's we know it's coming. We have no reason to fear that. We'll prosper because we know the short side of the market. I'm still going blind. Okay, looking at the 30-year, we're at 6 right now. The high is 11. Because there's a little more volatility, I'll make 11 to 15, sell 1, and 19 to 23, sell 2. But this 4-letter ledge is at 8, so we'll put a question mark at 7. We have the value area low at 29. We're at 05. The mathematical close is 42.16 today, so we'll make 1 to 29 by 1 and 21 to 25 by 2. An Ebola news story on this contract should take us higher. So the default position on treasuries because of Ebola is to be long. Okay, gold was pretty quiet overnight. It hit resistance. Resistance held. It did trade off overnight, but again, I don't think it'll break. We're starting to see stories about how undervalued gold is, and the buying in India, because they've lifted the restrictions at the retail level, is 450% greater in retail account buying, and most of that's jewelry in India. China is also rumored to be in the cash market for gold, so there's stories popping out that gold is really undervalued these days, and that's the first time we've kind of seen those stories. The low came in Asia, 29, so we got our 28 to 30 buy area, and then 23 to 25, let them get stops. We'll pick up this little volume bulge right here for buy 2. I see it as a trading range. I think we'll have trouble taking out 35, so we'll put the 35 to 37 sell 1, and then 40 to 42 for sell 2, stops above 40. Not a lot of magic there, and we've got volume right here that should pull us close enough to 35 for the exchange members to get stops above 35. We've got this single print here right close to 37. And we've got a single print up here at 41. We've got this low. So those numbers look structurally to be pretty good for resistance and support. Looking at the euro is off a little bit overnight. The news out of Spain is the nurse that had contracted the virus is free. The news story, sadly, yesterday said they hadn't told her that they put her dog down. Yeah, dogs, I mean, I guess they could be carriers, but the fruit bat is a carrier. Primates in Africa are not. It's hard to understand why they would kill a dog, but that would be a hard break coming home and finding that out for sure. Okay, here we are. Yesterday's highs held. The spill from 85 is where resistance is. We've rejected prices below 30. So we're at 63, the value area low. So we'll make 40 to 50, and I do not like this trade, buy one, but that's where the support is. And then we'll make 20 to 30. I like that trade because it's against support right down here, the London low. On the sell side, this is pointing higher, so I think we go a little bit higher, so we'll make 75, 85, sell one, and 27, 27, 10, sell two. Pretty much where we have been, this contract. The 40 to 50 is a play for stops below 50. 20 to 30 is where structural support is. Okay, crude's off overnight. There was a story out yesterday that over the past month, U.S. bombing has killed 21 civilians and 533 ISIS. That's not a lot of casualties over the course of a month where the bombs have been dropped. Probably because we're dropping most of those bombs at night when we first started out, and there are a lot of sites that are restricted. But what bombing we do is effective at that moment, and it keeps ISIS at a standstill. They're not advancing on the Kurds. Okay, we definitely have a B in the overnight session. 82 held, so stops below 81, so 80. 75 buy one, picking up this breakout area right here. Last rotate down right there. The next buy would be 50 to 25, picking up this area right in here. I like the short side better. The market's telling us that even if supply is interrupted by ISIS, there's enough excess capacity in the world that it should not be a problem. London's high is 65, so 50 to 75, that is very, very aggressive. And 82, 82 and a quarter for sell two. Okay, to the E-mini. The media capital of the world is New York City. Every news story that comes out of the United States starts, that's where the send button is located. It's where it's relayed for news out of Europe and Asia. It all comes through New York City first. Probably every dollar that's made in the world passes through New York at least once, too. So we've got Ebola that will probably contain the market to the upside until they get some feedback on what's happening with this doctor and how many people have see exposed to it. You know, you talk about just sheer idiocy. This guy passes all the tests. Well, if the incubation period is 21 days to maybe as many as 48, and I can come back, and if I don't run a fever when I clear the entry point, then I can get right through and go on my life. That's what happened with this doctor. It would seem to me that if you wanted to minimize the occurrence of Ebola coming into your country, anybody that came out of those 5 African nations, especially the 3 where the disease is at its highest, would 21 days locked up before they were allowed to leave that country. Then they could board a special airplane, and then they could come back to the States. But isolate, quarantine, and then treat. That is how you stop pandemics. And right now, you don't know if it's because of upcoming immigration policy. I mean, we read news where all sorts of people are being cleared to come in as immigrants in the United States right now. The stories put out by our government are absolutely ludicrous as to why they're still allowing people to come in from those countries. They're not based on science or logic. They're based on administrative policy, and they want people coming in the United States, immigrating here. It doesn't matter if it's legal or illegal. You know, if you want a, was it an H-6 visa, green card, because you actually have skills, you're a scientist, you're an engineer, you're a mathematician, you're something that can add to our economy, you're on the waiting years for less. If you can get to the United States illegally, you're welcomed with open arms. I mean, it's nuts, especially when you have Ebola out there. So Ebola, the market will be looking for stories about who this guy contacted, how he traveled when he got back to the United States. So the market will be subject to news spikes, and that'll take the market lower. Will it break it? Probably not. So we're in a situation where we were yesterday. We got pretty good support, 20 to 25, and we now have resistance at 50 to 55. Yesterday, well, really for the last several days, we've been talking about that 55, 56 area, which is right here. If that held, the market could trade back down into where it needs volume to normalize. So the first buy is going to be at the top of this number right here. So this 29 to 31 will be buy 1. Then 25 to 27 will be buy 2. On the sell side, the top of value is 43, so 44, 46 will be sell 1. 49 to 51 will be sell 2. And we'll probably have to adjust that. New home sales, probably not a factor today at 460. I would guess that Ebola will hold the market's attention. Okay, it'd take at least 15 minutes to get everything up and out. If you had to favor a side of the market today because of Ebola, you would favor the sell side. Best support is 20 to 25, not 30 plus or minus, but this market makes us pay up to get in early in the session. Later in the session, the second half of the day, we usually have a pretty fair chance of getting back to our original buy points. The structure of the market still favors higher prices. That's certainly the Fed policy. Anytime the selling starts to get out of hand, the Fed will be there. Be back with you as soon as possible.